Welcome back to the Interconnectedness of Things, the podcast where we explore how technology, data, and human insight come together to shape the future of work. This is part 4 of our Lifecycle of Work series, and this episode will tackle a question that's quietly frustrating leaders across government and enterprises alike. So if AI is connected to all the right system, why isn't it delivering the results we expected all the time? So we'll look at the difference between connection and context and why giving AI access to your data is not the same as giving it the understanding it needs to actually do work. So let's get into it. I'm, as always, joined by my co-host, Dr. Andrew Hutson. And he's been doing quite a bit of research on our own back end here at Qflow, and has been trying to answer the question of how to improve the efficacy of the LLMs that we're using. So that seems like a big question. So I'll let you kind of kick things off there.
I'll do the best I can. It has been quite the journey recently, and I've been privileged being able to take some time and dive deep. One of the even this past weekend, looking into how to do this stuff, it really kind of dawned on me that this problem is universal and has existed longer than the LLM hype. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really, if you think to yourself and ask the question, I have to bring on a new team member. How do I get them productive?
How do
How
I
do I
onboard
put
them
in,
quickly?
yeah, how do I, that time to productivity, if you're taking your MBA, right? And the harder it is for you to do that in your business for a human, it's going to be more difficult for an LLM that doesn't have human intelligence. So, what can we do? One of the tools that's out there, which is the very basic one, and it's really good for answering one question, which is I don't know what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Help me find the thing.
help me narrow down something. And that's been solved by using vector databases. So this is, if you haven't heard of it, it's a it's a type of database that rather than having specific values that you're pulling back, like you're running your application and like username and my birthday and stuff like that, those are really concrete. A vector is going to say, here's a mathematical representation of the thing. And if you give me a prompt, a question, a query, I can try to match what you prompt to something in the database and tell you how closely matching they are. So that's trying to help you say, what's what am I kind of looking for? I'm not sure what it is. So it'll give you something similar. So you can think of vectors as similar, but not exact.
So I always try to tie this back to tools that people already use. So like Google Drive or SharePoint, that search bar, that
Mm-hmm.
is not a vector based function, correct?
Right. Typically, it's going to try to match on a keyword. So give a precise match.
Okay.
So, like,
Yeah.
this word existed in that text blob. Vector's going to say, I'm just going to run a calculation. I'm going to take
Mhm.
you back to trigonometry and cosine relativity and get you something in there that is kind of close based on how frequently it might occur in the math. So it truly is an abstracted way to try to find something similar without matching on a keyword.
Gotcha. Okay.
Why is that important? Well, if you can get to kind of close to what you're matching, uh, then you can go to the next level. So that's the associations, which you can do in a database today. In a database, you can say, hey, Hudson works with Nava. There's an association there, right?
Mhm.
And it's explicit, and we can say directly that's what it is. That's the best kind of association, one that's explicit. But there's also less explicit, inferred, meaning, hey, these two things are kind of similar, and they're enough similar that there's an inferred relationship and association. So that's that next second tier of trying to get your LLM to learn what's going on. There's what's close, and that's a vector, but then the knowledge graph. What's
Okay.
actually associated? So there's explicit association, which is always the best, and then there's derived. I think this is pretty close to association. And the degree that you allow derived allows, and also the degree of your explicit connections, uh, determines how well an LLM can traverse and get the information that it needs from your system.
Okay. So how do you
Which,
organize that?
oh, well, it's hard. Uh, I I'll tell you what, the way that I've started to approach it is with the LLMs. So an LLM can help convert documents into vectors. An LLM can help find explicit and inferred connections and can also build out those connections itself if it's prompted to. It won't just do it. And then finally, it can build its own. You ever go to like an FAQ, right, and a website, the About Us,
Yeah.
a knowledge base, right?
Mm-hmm.
LLMs, it turns out, benefit from that too. If they can build their own wiki with what they've learned from interacting with you, from interacting with the systems, from making mistakes and saying, "Oh, I can't make that mistake again," it can start to build its own reference. Here's how I get to where I need to go better and faster. Kind of like a new employee would do. Oh, that's what that acronym means. Oh, that's where I go to get to my new class, whatever the case may be.
So they really
Yeah.
do learn the more you use them, which can
In
be
a strictest sense, but unfortunately, they don't just do it. You really have to intentionally configure it to do that. And that's kind of the key here is when you're thinking about your business benefits of using LLMs and you may not be getting the results you're expecting, it's likely because the LLM is reflecting the level of organization you have.
Mhm. Yes.
We just
Well,
talked
I
about that
can,
today. If you take a bad process and automate it, now you got a fast bad process.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and we've run into this problem with trying to do the same thing with our own LLMs.
You and
And
I. Yeah.
yeah, and so we're trying to get annotated screenshots. Seems simple enough,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been using Claude Code. My Claude Code just could not understand for the life of it how to do that.
Yep.
But yours, even though it wasn't perfect, was able to at least do the task.
To produce it.
So
Yeah.
so that kind of illustrates how I probably just wasn't giving it organized context or any right context. So it's really figuring out how an LLM does parse through all of that information.
It's
No.
like learning this whole new tool, right?
Mhm.
And the that was a pretty stark contrast for something we were both collaborating on, and the output my Claude would give, if you could say it that way. I don't know what the proper terminology is.
Yeah.
Uh, versus the output yours would give for the same task
Mhm.
was drastically different.
Yeah.
That is inconsistency at a level that now you start to question, can this thing even scale? And I
Yeah.
will say Claude Code is arguably one of the best, most effective models that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yet we had such a stark difference between the two of us. So
Yeah.
what was the difference? Well, the only difference I could identify was I built what's called a context engine that self learns, quote unquote, self remembers, traverses the things I'm looking on every single time I do a prompt. So it's an
Mm-hmm.
MCP that folks can get to. It's at Hutson Labs /repo context. Uh, you can
Shameless
install
plug.
it and add it to your Claude. And what it will do is those three tiers that we just talked about. It'll do the vector in place, all
Mm-hmm.
private. It'll do the knowledge graph, excuse me, and help build that out. Three, it will do what I call the LLM wiki. And this is coming from another researcher called Karpathy, who's got some auto research tools out there as well to facilitate agents and LLMs. But these three things combined with the MCP server, Model Context Protocol, says, okay, Claude Code, here's a tool that you can use. And every time, and this has to be the system prompt that I had to write out to make sure it does it. Every time uh, Dr. Hutson gives you a prompt,
Mm-hmm.
you need to make sure, and you make a change, you need to make sure that you go through these three tiers. Make sure you can find what's similar. Then you do your associations of 90% or greater. And then you make any notes that you think are relevant inside of the LLM wiki. And it builds that corpus over time. This is a similar principle for another open source thing out there called Hermes. Says the more you use it, the smarter it gets. Well, what it's doing is building the patterns, the practices, the preferences into that isolated space that you're using it. It's actually probably how Microsoft got itself in trouble for how they did it. They knew this. I don't know
Oop.
if anybody had Microsoft recall. They got a bunch of flack for this a year ago. So essentially, they very stupidly, as far as tech companies go, uh, said, I know what I'm going to do. I know my LLM needs information about what you do. So I'm going to take a screenshot of everything you're doing every couple of seconds, and I'm going to save it on your computer for Copilot to reference. But I'm not going to
Oh,
encrypt it. I'm not going to lock it down. I'm not going to do anything I should do. I'm just going to basically monitor Big Brother what you're doing on that computer. And the way that they framed it and they talked about it and why it was important just did not go over well. But you're starting to see at least what they were trying to accomplish is
sure.
understanding that LLMs could only go so far and models can only get so much better to the point where we're at the stage where they're not getting that much better. It's the
Mm-hmm.
tools and the construction around them, the ocean, the water that they swim in that determines what's good versus what's bad. And your
Yep.
ocean wasn't yet filled up. You were still in a pond.
Well, and
And I was
it
starting
goes
to get into a lake.
right, and it goes into, or it goes back to the question of like, can these LLMs scale to an organizational level or an enterprise level? Because if people are using their own instances, they're going to have different contexts. They're going to have different file structures, data structures, like the issue we're running into. So
Yeah.
is it even possible for an enterprise level company to have a shared instance that they've given the guardrails to?
I think it's possible if, I think there's an if. It's possible if we are selective on what, or we're selective on how we prioritize the information the LLM accesses. So, uh, completely not agent related, but we'll talk about a customer.
Yep.
On one side, they have a very well organized, extremely structured case management tool.
Mm-hmm.
And within the same department, they have some folks operating with a file share. Now, there are some elements that overlap on how they describe things and cases and documents and that kind of thing. But quickly, you'll find in the file share, patterns break down. And now you have a lot of less obvious junk, for lack of a better word.
Because people are
Like,
naming things different and using different conventions.
yep. And it could be the same person on different days that they're like, ooh, this is a good way to label this. Or, oh, in this circumstance, I'm going to add this extra thing, whatever it might be. And so you get drift away from the standard.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's really predictable on one system and less predictable on the second. Maybe it overlaps 80%, but still that's 20% that's drift. So which do you point your LLM to? Well, depending on who you ask, they're going to pick one or the other.
Structured one.
Yeah. Well, the people using the structured one would pick the structured one. The people using the file share would say, well, this is where I'm working. I'm going to point at the file share. And you're going to get that, you're going to start to bifurcate of what the standards are that are following. So being able to create not only a standard for your corporate knowledge that's consistent and easy to build in kind of to your day to day, but also that standard for how folks connect to it with an AI assistant, with an agent.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that you can have that consistent, the more consistent, reliable results you'll get from the system.
So this kind of moves away a little bit from AI is an easy button. It's going to organize all my stuff. I'm going to be able to hand off a lot of admin work to it. Because now it's like, okay, now we have to almost reconfigure our systems to work with LLMs. Is that the case, or is there somewhere in the middle?
There's probably some gray area. Some of the superficial stuff is what I'll call it when we first started using LLMs, like, hey, reorganize my downloads folder, clean up my desktop. What are the best Coachella things to follow? I don't know. Stuff like that. Coachella's hot right now.
Yeah.
That superficial stuff works really well, and you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about it. But when you're trying to get it to help you do something that you do well and consistently, and making sure that it can repeatedly give you a predictable result, I'm leaning more and more towards this highly structured information and going back to predictable scripting. So I may not have the time to write every script I want or a web page to go see and summarize, but I can get Claude to do that for me. And now it's a little bit more superficial with more predictability around here's definitely what you need to pull every single time.
So using the LLM to tell you how to structure your data for the LLM.
Yep, you can definitely ask it, hey, how can I best structure this for you to be effective? And then go farther and say, how would you never get this wrong? And Claude will tell you, well, I'd write a script. Okay.
What's the script?
Yeah, go write whatever that script is, whether it's like a script that we're going to read just like you would if you were in a play, you'd read off a script, right? Same thing for a computer. I'm gonna create a script to follow to pull in the information I need every time. And it's always these little things like we're using it for time tracking to help out everybody across the company. And the first iteration that I did was really quote unquote expensive and not really clear on how it was supposed to work well. And it was doing duplication and it wasn't as useful. throw in uh, a couple of helper tools like a JSON file that has a structured everybody that works so it doesn't have to pull that a second time,
Hmm.
or a database to know the last time it ran, and then an MCP that it knows to go look at that. Well, suddenly it's working really well. And it's those little things combined that if people think it's a replacement, I don't think they're using it enough. But I can say that it is an accelerator.
Okay.
And it will and that's a double-edged sword. Just like we were saying earlier, if you put automation on a bad process, now you have a fast bad process. The same thing is true with the LLMs and how you're organized and thoughtful and structured and predictable. If you are a little loose, little goose, right?
Yeah.
A little loosey goosey, little wild west on how you do things, a little fly by the seat of your pants, a little vibe. How
Then
am I
you're gonna get
vibing today?
then you're gonna get vibe results.
Vibe faster is what's going to happen. Either you're vibing, aura maxing, or looks maxing. I don't know. What are the kids saying today?
I don't know. I've lost. I'm officially behind now.
Oh no,
I'm still at aura farming, and I think
I'm down
that's
with it.
old news.
Yeah, that seems
So yeah, so this is a little more than just content management. It's more than structuring your files in a certain way, and it's definitely more than just using AI. So what are we calling this? This
oh boy.
organizational knowledge.
That sounds good to me.
Organizational
Uh,
knowledge?
yeah,
Solved
that
it.
sounds great. Nailed it. Because I think it's what everybody's been chasing.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember back to, oh my gosh, 20 years ago now, sitting in Boston, well, at a small school right outside of Boston, looking at a presentation um, where the president of Intel was talking. And he said, if Intel knew what Intel knew,
Mm-hmm.
we'd be 3 times more productive.
Yep. Great
This
quote.
has been that people have been chasing it for years. How do I just know what we know? And I think we've realized that having a tool like this can help us, quote unquote, tap into that corporate knowledge, can help us avoid corporate amnesia, which is another thing that happens. People forget stuff over time. It kind of can unlock stuff that is held back companies and teams for years, but it's
Mhm.
not an easy button.
No.
But for those that are investing in it, like their time to learn it, to craft it, to refine it, to improve it, uh,
Standardize it.
standardize it, you're starting to see the separation happen. And the folks that aren't doing that, they're falling behind faster and faster because this is going so fast. This is People are not kidding. This, going from agriculture to the industrial revolution um, happened 10 times faster than other revolutions before that. And there's no kidding that this is happening 100 times faster.
So now we're in the AI revolution level.
Truly. And the fact that what it's done is put power. There's a great book written by Thomas Friedman called The World is Flat. And it talks about how technology flattens or levels the playing field where people can get to information. It's not a strict hierarchy that like the clergy are the only ones who know and the peasants can't even read, right? Now the world is flattening out and we can access information everywhere. This tool is helping us synthesize that. It's helping us take advantage of it. It's not limiting us to what we can do with our own focus and our own minds and our own capability. It can say, hey, I have the idea. I want to know where I want to go.
Mhm.
I don't have all the skills to get me there. And I bet you I can ask something like this to help me get it. And people are starting to realize they can. And that's where AI is starting to come in of, oh, I can rapidly prototype this idea
Yep.
where it never would have happened before. So big deals, big faster, big greatness,
And it's
big
all
leap.
very. And I've learned so much even in like the last month about um how to better use Claude Code because I am
Oh,
not
you
a
should talk about
developer.
your journey.
Yeah, I am not a developer by trade or interest or anything. And I have very, very light knowledge on code or anything about vector databases or JSON files, which were all new terms to me. But just playing around with Claude code and has made me learn so much. So it
Well,
really is
you
just
used
about
it
being
beyond
curious.
just coding.
Yeah, like building dashboards and yeah, like creating GitHub repositories, which are
Mhm.
things I never could have done just on my own. Well, I could, but it would just take so much longer. Um, so it
Well,
really,
and you're doing that for customers and customer success, and then you're running through those prototypes, and it's helping you get more and more insights, and the speed by which you can adapt that. I mean,
Mhm.
for someone who, and I don't want to speak for you, but like your career has not been, let me go build tech.
No,
Yeah, it's messaging, it's marketing, it's
yeah.
uh, how do people find value in what you're building, and so you could take that perspective and that knowledge and then run with a tool like Claude and do greatness with it
So it's
because you're like,
actually
oh,
when a marketing person and an engineer can actually communicate with each other, and then it becomes magic.
yep, I
Because
would agree.
those
You're magical. Yes.
those two roles are historically talking very different languages. Um,
Yeah, that's a great point. It helps bridge the gap
mhm.
of the expertise, and like take it from the other side of an engineer. Can they think more product related? How is this going to sell? What do I need to think about in terms of this other perspective?
Yes.
And boy, does it improve the quality of collaboration, in my view, because before we ever get in a room together, we've had a chance to consider other perspectives. Like Tim putting together his board. So
Yep.
he went and made profiles of different folks that he'd want to try to run ideas past that he may not have been able to get access to. And he put in a system to go pitch a question or an idea and then get rounds of feedback from the LLM impersonating these different personas. And it was really smart. And I don't know if anybody else would have thought to do that other than a couple of niche people, but the power of the perspective is really what this offers. And if you can't offer it your perspective, whether that's personal, team, organizational, then you can't be represented in the output.
Hmm.
And that's really what we're talking about is how do we take the stuff that we know and make it accessible and get that perspective in there so that what gets output is expected.
And so you had kind of alluded to this earlier in the conversation about the water that you're, I guess I'm talking about the metaphor that we've come up with.
Oh yeah, the
Uh,
the water that the LLMs swim in, right? If
yeah.
the LLMs are the fish, the models are the fish, what do they swim in? And other people might argue with me on different metaphors here, and I might be stretching it too far, but I really do think the everything that we've been talking about, the perspectives, the how you structure your data, the tooling, all these things are the water,
Mhm.
and you may not see them. It's not the flash. It's not the demo. It's not let me prompt Claude and get a perfect answer back. That's the flash, the bang, the sizzle, the fish that you just caught. But in order for that to thrive and that to happen, they got to be in the water, and the water is what we're building.
Yes.
It's we're taking all this learning and this research, and we're in a privileged position that we can do that. Uh, Not only do we have decades of insight and explicit connections of data that our users can leverage, but then we have the tooling that can surround it to help pair it with private models. And that's starting to unlock everything that we just talked about at a massive scale.
Yeah.
And working through these at a micro level, all these little hiccups and trip ups and what works and what doesn't and what goes to folly, translate into that macro,
Mm-hmm.
and really start to help all of our users take advantage of this tool. And it is a tool. It's not a sentient thing. It's just a tool. It's like working with Excel. Think about how
Well,
freeing that was. I could do a calculation on a cell. Oh, that's cool.
yeah. And Excel wasn't perfect when it started either. So
That's right.
we're getting closer and closer to be able to scale LLMs across the whole enterprise to where no matter who's using it, they're going to get the same result. So that's what we're building. That's what we're working on, and it's incremental change. And one day we'll get it perfect.
Oh, what a day.
What a day. Well, this was a great discussion. Any last thoughts about LLMs and, well, not
I'm
just
just going to
LLMs.
continue to be a student. Um,
Yeah.
I want to continue experimenting. I want to see what works and what doesn't. Uh, some of this is fiddly, but what I try to do is as I find something that I found value from, uh, I post it up for others to use. Um,
Yeah. And I'll put that in the description of this episode too, so people can access that if they're interested in giving their LLM some guardrails.
yeah, give 'em a little love, give 'em little superpowers.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this great discussion. And you, the listeners, if you enjoyed this, please share with your network. Leave us a comment, give us some feedback. How are you liking this series? How are you liking what we're talking about? Is this relevant to what you're interested in hearing about? But we have one more part of this life cycle of work series. So I encourage you to check that out, as well as check out our other three. So thanks for listening.
Bye bye.